Thank you. I'm looking at your paper. It looks like Indonesia, we still have a long way to go, especially when after in 2015 is coming up in order to catch up with a country like Singapore. Certainly, we're not as attractive, for example, as Singapore. Now, just a quick question on the promotion aspect of it. Now, because of we are actually, even though we are integrated as an ASEAN, in terms of the services we provide, we are competitive, whether it's the tourism, the financial, or the transportation. Now, does it make sense to have an integrated promotional efforts in order to bring in sort of more export services into this part of the region, particularly in Indonesia? Or
so you mean the integrated mean that the cooperation?
The promotional efforts.
At the regional level.
Because otherwise we are competing against each other.
I think the cooperation, collaboration may be very difficult, as you said, the competition. So you need to liberalize first to attract FDI from third countries. So in a sense, the competitive, how to say, the ASEAN countries should competing to liberalizing their service industry to attract the investment from the third country. That's the reality. If you don't liberalize and the other ASEAN countries liberalize, that's a nightmare. All service goes to that country. So this is really interesting. On the one hand, regional cooperation in services are really positive sum game. But at the same time, but if you look at the FDI, that is not the case. So on the one hand, cooperation, but on the other hand, really competition.
Yeah, so actually what we talk about regional economic integration is basically more competition, and we have to be ready to open up our markets and competing with our neighbors instead of integrating. And in this instance, I think Indonesia, we still have a lot of homework to finish off before we are ready to open up. Just we've only got a few more minutes, I'm afraid, so I would like to open the forum for questions. Yes, we have a microphone there. Just very quickly identify yourself and to whom the question is addressed. Let's take...
Good afternoon. A question to Mr. Sattar. A recent study by the Boeing Corporation indicates a need for some 500,000 pilots and even a greater need for aircraft mechanics by the year 2025. With a disproportionate number of some 170,000 pilots needed in Southeast Asia operations alone, which our industry cannot meet under the present circumstances. My question is how is this expected pilot shortage impacting his airline activities, and what solutions do you think or do you see to address this situation in the future?
And so, do you have your microphone next to you? Yes.
Thank you for the question. We are starting to have that issue a few years back, and we are fortunate that that challenge has been taken as an opportunity in other industries. If you see, there are so many aviation schools popping up around the country. Even in Bali, there is a pilot school, but that still hasn't been able to cope with the demand. Garuda's, for instance, Garuda's fleet will be twice as big as it is today in 3 years' time, and I think it's a matter of a market issue that elsewhere in the world, airlines are facing the same issue, and I think it's a matter of how each country's internal resources can cope with their own airline requirements. Some of the flying schools in Indonesia are bringing in new airplanes and growing as fast as they can. So it's a numbers game, but we are fortunate to have so many airspace that can accommodate flying schools. There's never been a shortage of airspace. And there are so many experienced pilots who has been retired that are building, sharing their knowledge in aviation schools. So I think in competence, from competence point of view, we are very fortunate to have them have their experience back into the industry, but number-wise, I think we're still catching up. It's a global issue rather than a country-specific issue.
Okay.
I hope that answered the question.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. The topic of this forum
Could you just
was,
put your microphone closer to your, so we can hear you better?
yes. Yeah. The topic of this forum was focused on how to promote services sector exports. Yeah. We listened to a number of discussions from practical point of view. As academic, I like to differentiate manufacturing and services. So promoting manufactured goods, we use 4 Ps: product, place, price, and promotion. And current day teaching, we use 3 additional Ps, which we call now extended marketing mix concept. We add people, physical environment, and process. Under people, we highlight the importance of human resource management and the physical environment, where we consider the ambient, and the process, this is where we talk about technology involvement and how to get to the customer. I like to know from the panel members whether you are in agreement to this analysis.
Okay. Could you identify yourself? Sorry. And
My name is Anura Amarasena, and I was one of the people where Mr.
Okay.
Janaka Ratnayaka mentioned about promoting tea. So I had some experience in promoting tea in the past in some region in the North Africa. Currently, I'm working as an academic in Australian University.
Thank you. Maybe, David, you can answer this, the difference between the definition of export manufacturing and services.
I mean, to an extent, there's some validity in exploring additional dimensions of how that promotion can take place. I think for us, the basic tenets of marketing still hold for services, hold true for services as much as it does for goods and any other manufactured product. The challenges really are not necessarily in those areas, but to a large extent is more resident within the services supplier at a small level, just because of a number of factors, including resources, which impacts the ability to understand the broader marketplace. And sometimes that also affects the channels that supplier can use to get to market. So perhaps in that context, then some of the other dimensions that are being explored here could prove to be very valuable in terms of how you work with the services suppliers to achieve export promotion success.
Janaka, do you agree?
I think I too agree with that, because services cannot be provided without people and processes. So therefore, his probably definition in now not 4 Ps is 7 Ps. So it will be the probably ideal definition that we can come out with. I certainly agree.
Do you have anything to add, Imtiaz? At the end of the day, it's about getting your goods to your markets, isn't it?
I think all the factors that were applicable for a product or a manufactured good remains the same for service also. Because at the end of the day, experience is what our product is, and it also has to meet all other factors that you have mentioned. The total 7 Ps are also truly applicable for us also.
Maybe another P is perception. At the end of the day, it's how people, brand value, image, and all the other intangibles. One last question, please. Anybody? Is there a hand? All right. Well, let's take. All right. Let's say 2 more questions, but maybe we can have the 2 questions at the same time. Yes.
Thank you very much. I can talk.
I can't, you're so far away, I can't see. All right, the gentleman first and then the other question.
Okay. You see, my concern is, towards all these speakers. They have been talking individually to the services they belong, and some of them are more focused in talking about the type of service they are belong to. What I would, think that based on their own experiences, and let's call them they have also made success and breakthrough in their own sectors or the type of services they belong to. In the developing countries, you see, the trade promotion organization, institutional supports, and whatever are the resources of the governments, up till now they were more focused on manufacturing, trying to sort of provide them competitiveness, spending some of the money to make showcasing of those products and technical assistance, seeking from lenders and so many other things. And lately now they are caught in the crossfire of sanitary and phytosanitary arrangements, so they are trying to develop the agri-exports on that. But service sector, which also, invariably in the developing countries, also remains a major contributor to the GDP. But why it is so and such that in the developing country and in the paradigm of developing country, there's the least approach, either by the people who should ask the government, who should ask the trade promotion institutions, or who should sort of make advocacy based on the success of their own individual sector, you see. For example, someone is talking about airlines, someone is talking about IT, and someone is claiming about some other things. So based on this, why not a general approach or the expertise are used to invite the attention of the respective trade promotion institutions in the respective countries and the governments, that they should also pay attention towards sort of finding a tabulated, system for attending the service sector, you see.
All right, that's a very good input. Unfortunately, the last speaker that we have is actually from the government, and I think that would be, that would have been a much more sort of a pertinent question for him to answer, but I do also feel, yes, but we do have the regional perspective, but I think it's also important to have a government perspective on this issue, and I think we are missing sort of that aspect. Okay, the final question, please. Thank you.
Christopher Lewis from Trinidad. I'm speaking from the perspective of, as a trade promotion organization. What strategies would you suggest, any member of the panel, to reduce the potential for the underreporting of services income or revenue generated, particularly in the creative sector and the IT sector? Because in this internet age, I could simply do a contract online, collect my money overseas, and as a TPO, I have no record of my impact in that environment. So that's the slant of the question.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody wants to answer yet? Well, actually, there are 2 points about the other thing is more integrated.
I will answer to his question. Now, we have technically this issue in our country. Now, it's common to every country in the sense like there is no way that we could trace, especially even the revenue. What we do is at the moment, like the case in India, that we do conduct surveys every other year, physical survey by recognized people, and to see how much that particular the industry has generated. So there is no common formula to capture those information at the moment.
David, particularly on the first gentleman's question on the government sort of interest in actually promoting the services sector, this is something that
well,
you were talking
I
about
thought that
earlier.
was an interesting question for a number of reasons. But I think the challenge, in my opinion, really for when you look at developing countries is that for them, they don't have the existence or of attendant sectors in other areas around which services can be built. So for them, the ability to get to market has to take then other channels that are not necessarily present in the same way that you'd find them in developed countries. And let me give you an example. If you have, for an industrial sector, a manufacturing sector, a car industry, that in and of itself is an industry, but around that there are a lot of other services sectors, design and creation and all different things, that vehicle sector then serves as a vehicle in itself to help get the services out to market. You don't find that in developing countries, in the small developing countries and small services providers. So their challenge of actually going to market is a lot more difficult one. And you have to be a lot more creative in getting. A lot of the developed countries, when you try to seek capacity from them to talk about how to promote services, they don't have an understanding of your realities as small services providers. And sometimes the solutions they attempt to provide you with have no relevance to the realities that you have on the ground. So, I mean, it's an interesting question that was raised. So.
Shintaro, so maybe you would like to, nothing to add? How about the question of the under-reporting of revenue? Is this something that is of a problem?
No, I think this is very much relevant for IT outsourcing, especially people who are freelancing. They are not considered to be sort of a recognized sector anywhere. They are outside, and also most of them would work from home, and the revenue generated by them, even country like Bangladesh, where they assume the revenue generated by IT outsourcing, freelancing, is more than the institutional revenue. So that's where government is trying to liberalize the inflow of remittance, categorize them, provide them with a structured way where they can report and earn their revenue. That's the only way we can bring it into the formalized revenue stream. Otherwise, it's difficult to identify if it's done from freelancing, it's not reported.
But your company, do you have a problem from the tax offices?
No, not really. Like if you are institutionalized and you do enjoy a lot of government incentives, like you have a tax break and you can have access to low interest loan from government. So IT companies has all the reasons to be in the formalized arena. But if those are freelancing, those are just sitting from home, doing a lot of projects online. I mean, they are earning huge amount of revenue. Like in Bangladesh, more than 15,000 people are, even more than that are estimated, are working as a freelancer full-time. So I mean, that's a whole revenue which is not recognized right now and can be termed as, an unknown number. What is being coming in is not known by the authorities.
Okay, well, I'm afraid we do have to wrap up now because it's 6 o'clock and we did start late. So big hands, please, for our panelists, for Stono, Janaka, David, Imtiaz, and Shintaro. And yeah, the services exports are actually something that we still have plenty of room for growth, but there's certainly still many challenges out there, although the opportunities are also out there for companies and the services sectors to grow. Again, thank you very much for joining me on this panel, and I would like to hand over this program to the organizer again. Thank you very much.